It's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, let's do this on a Thursday, the beginning of March Madness. We got Kansas and Missouri playing later today in the 6 o'clock hour. The games will start all across the country beginning in about 1 hour from right now. So I get excited. I'm like Mundo. I have a long history of covering and following this tournament. When I was a much younger man working at Channel 4 in the 90s, I covered the Missouri Tigers every year and went wherever they went. And it was very exciting because I had not been many places. I had not traveled a lot. I had not seen much of the world or been many places. And we would wait every selection Sunday to see where the Tigers were going to find out where I got to travel. It was so exciting. And now I think it's really cool to be able to just kind of kick back and watch every game everywhere all at once on a big screen. Pretty cool stuff. We got a great show lined up for you today. Yes, sir.
Whoever's in your spot now gets to go to Wichita.
Wichita.
So probably not as exciting as what you would have been back in the day.
I never went to Wichita. KU went there many times, but I didn't cover them. Boise, Greensboro, many times to Utah. It seemed like Missouri always went west. We went to the old L.A. Sports Coliseum in Los Angeles, where we were crime victims. I went to L.A. 3 times in a row where I either saw or was victim of a crime. It's true. We got in a hit and run one time covering a Chiefs game when the Raiders played in the Coliseum. When the Tigers played there in the NCAA tournament, we had a stabbing by our satellite truck as we were doing a live shot. The time difference was such that it was 8:15 p.m. was basically L.A. time when I was coming on for my 10 o'clock live shot, and a lady comes staggering out of the arena. She had worked in there that day. It was practice day. It was between the Tigers' first win and their second game, but it was open to the public, and she was a vendor. And she came out, and she still had her little vending vest on and stuff, and some crazy guy screaming at her when she walks out of the arena and comes after her, and she reaches down into her deal and pulls out a knife and just carves him up. Apparently it was her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend with a restraining order. He staggers. He bounces off one of the satellite trucks. There's blood on the side of it. I mean, L.A. was just a war zone back then. That was about the time of the Rodney King riots and such. I mean, we saw it all. We had a camera stolen at the airport during the Menendez trials. I could do a whole show on these things one day.
That's incredible. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. The Menendez trials, you remember the Menendez brothers are trying to get them out right now.
I just watched a documentary on that the other night.
Okay. So when we went out there, and I don't remember then what we were, it must have been a Chiefs game, but it might have been Mizzou. We had these cameras. They were called Ikegamis, and they were very expensive. They were like $30,000, not like today. Like with your life, you didn't check these things. You carried them on the plane. We go to the baggage claim, and Don Proctor and myself drop it at our feet as we're at the baggage claim. And as we reach for our bags, we were both shoved from behind by a man who grabs the camera, goes right out the door. It was just like KCI in those days, throws it into a car that had pulled up in the front seat. He runs, the car drives off, it's gone. The police said, oh, yeah, the Menendez trial is here. They're stealing cameras right and left, and they're sending them back to Colombia to make porn movies with them. Wow. Oh, Los Angeles and me don't get along very well at all. But it's going to be fun. We'll see some tournament action today, and I can't wait to watch the basketball. It's going to be a blast. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Also, some changes to Social Security that I think may be a little bit of a speed bump for Trump and Elon. This is all part of lowering costs and securing identities and things like that. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But we start with some good news. Home sales are up 4.2%. The markets were down all morning. They announced that home sales in February went crazy, up 4.2%. 7 of the last 8 weeks, mortgage rates were down. People are noticing, and they're saying, okay, we believe in this economy. If home sales are up, that's meaningful. It's the biggest economic engine we have, especially new home sales. Because when a new home is built, it involves hundreds of different companies to build a house. And it's the biggest economic engine that we have. So we love that. The market turned completely around today. All the markets are up now on housing. And it just occurred to me, we had this big panic over the last week and whatnot over tariffs, what the markets think. For so many people, the markets don't matter. I get that. For some, it's a barometer of how we're doing. You get older and you have your life savings sitting there and you're worried about your nest egg. You watch it and you think it's a barometer of the economy. In this case, it's not anything to do with the barometer of the economy. It has to do with the unknown, uncertainty of what tariffs will bring. So we have survived the first wave of bad news about tariffs, that it's going to be a market problem, that it's this, that prices are going to be higher and all those things. And it may be the case. We may have market problems down the road with tariffs. But what we know is consumer confidence is way up. And it's no different than Trump's approval ratings. When a country is giving high approval ratings to its president and they like what they're seeing with criminals being deported, border being closed, actions being taken to cut government waste and spending, when they see things they like, a president is trying to negotiate peace instead of taking money from its own people to fund a war that we're not even in, when they see these policies, they just start to get more confident in what's going to be happening next month, in 6 months, in 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever. This is really early in a presidency to see this kind of movement. To see housing jump like this, that's really early. 4.2% in housing, and interest rates lower 7 of the last 8 weeks. That's consumer confidence. I like that. So we start with the good news today. Now, this is what I was going to lead with until I saw that happen just about 45 minutes ago. Last night, the Royals played on television, and I really enjoyed watching the baseball game. I just think the world of Ryan Lefevre. I've known him forever. I consider him a dear friend. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for Ryan. There isn't anything he wouldn't do for me. He is a really, really strong Christian, great family man, and tremendous broadcaster. There's not much more in this world than I can respect than that. He's a great American, great dad, great husband, great Christian, and a great broadcaster. All right, you made my list. You checked every box for me, so that's my guy right there. I love guys like that. He's incredible. They're calling the game. He's got Rex Hudler on there. Bobby Witt Jr. had already homered in the first inning. And John Sherman is their guest, the owner. And so they're interviewing John Sherman. And normally these interviews are pretty bland. It's about the team, things we're doing. Culture was one of the big topics. These are all interesting to Royals fans. I'm not saying it wasn't interesting. I wasn't sure if they'd ask him about a new ballpark or the development around a new ballpark. But Ryan did, and it was parsed. It wasn't obviously like I would do it, but I don't work for the Royals, so that's different. And Sherman was pretty guarded in his comments, and then he said, "We hope to talk about this sometime in the middle of the year." And I thought, well, that's a far cry from "we've got it all buttoned up," which is what he said now about a month ago. A month ago, John Sherman says he's got a deal all buttoned up. And we thought it was imminent. Most people thought, okay, the Royals know exactly what they're doing and what they want to do, and it's done. Then we saw the senator from the state of Kansas say, we've got a deal pretty much done with one team and probably the other, or maybe the other. I don't remember exactly which word he used. And that we played for you on KCMO Talk Radio, and it became a story in a lot of other media outlets and venues. So it looked like, okay, this thing's on, and it's Kansas. There's no reason to believe that that isn't the case or that's changed, but it's a far cry from we've got a deal all buttoned up to we hope to have something to talk about by the middle of the year. The middle of the year is June 21st. That's the middle of the year. That's 3 months from now. That's a while. I know they've been at this for 3 years or whatever, but that's a while. Waiting 3 more months, if they think they have something buttoned up, doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't have anybody telling me this. I'm just reading between the lines. My old radio show was called Between the Lines. I just like to read between the lines. If you went in 1 month from saying it's all buttoned up to a month later saying we hope to have something maybe in 3 more months or the middle of the year, hope to, something changed. Something's different than a month ago. And I think the difference is the high-level meetings at the state of Missouri with the governor at the State House in Jefferson City. I don't see any movement in Jackson County, and I don't see anything really from Kansas City, Missouri. I don't know where. I just think this is a state play at this point. If the Royals are going to stay in Jackson County, it's going to have to be the state of Missouri that steps up in the biggest way. And the state of Missouri has said basically, we'll put a plan together, and so will Jackson County, as long as the team is in for a huge amount of money, much more than it would cost to go to Kansas. And I think that's been the sticking point. But it does sound like John Sherman is willing to wait a little bit longer and hear and listen to what plays out in Missouri. I think in the worst way he wants to be downtown. I think he wants to be in Missouri. I really, truly do. Now, what I thought was the craziest idea of all the ballparks, and I don't think we've discussed this on Uncanceled, and I don't know if Pete ever talked about this one or not, and it's gone away. Nobody's heard of this for like a year or longer. It was the greatest idea for the stadium I'd ever heard. If the Royals wanted to, did you know, if you go down there by Hy-Vee Arena, which is the old Kemper Arena, that part of the land there jets out along the river over to the Kansas River. It becomes Kansas. You think you're in Missouri, but it's actually Kansas. I didn't know this until I saw this concept. This is crazy. So essentially where the Kansas River meets the Missouri River is a point, and then it's a straight line down from there is the state line. It's not actually the river at that point. It's the state line straight down from where the Kansas meets the Missouri, and it goes straight south. Part of the land goes out, okay, and you think it's Missouri, but it's not. It's in Kansas. There was a ballpark rendering at one point that had most of the stadium in Kansas down there in the bottoms, okay, with a view to the northeast, which is what you're looking for, of all of downtown. It would be the most incredible view of downtown Kansas City you could have because you're below it and you're looking up at it. And in right field, the actual seats in right field would be in Missouri. You would hit home runs from Kansas to Missouri. You would hit them out of the state. Now, the question would be, where are the Royals located? Who's collecting the tax dollars? Is it a Kansas corporation? But they theoretically could use the Kansas money and deal of 70% of it paid for to build that if they were a Kansas company, all the sales tax went there and whatever. But the renderings of this had all of the entertainment district and development beyond the outfield in Missouri. And I don't know that Kansas would be on board with that. So I think that's why that one died. But my point is, I think John Sherman wants something like that. I think he wants to be downtown. I don't really think he wants to go to the suburbs or to Kansas. I don't think the Royals want to. I think the Chiefs understand they don't play as many games, and going to a different destination doesn't really matter. They don't belong downtown, too congested. They're not doing anything like that. It doesn't really matter where the Chiefs are. It's a totally different beast than a baseball stadium. I think John Sherman wants to stay downtown, and I think I heard that in his voice last night, that he's hoping he's going to hear something better over the next couple of months that will allow him to go, okay, I'm putting a full pause on this thing. We may have some action going here in Missouri. But as of right now, nobody can tell me anything that's going on in Missouri for the Royals or the Chiefs. I just don't see anything other than they've been meeting saying we'll help in some way as long as you're paying for a third or half of it. But I don't know why a team would pay that kind of money when they don't have to, when they can cross the state line. So I don't know. I do think John Sherman wants to be downtown, and I absolutely respect that. We can take some calls on that. We got some great topics on the show today, including I'm going to talk a little bit about J.D. Vance as well, because he gave a speech earlier this week that was terrific, and his full interview with Vince Colanese is coming up at 12:30 on KCMO Talk Radio. I cannot wait to hear that. It's going to be exceptional. We'll talk about that and much more. If you'd like to join us, 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. Yesterday on the show, we mentioned the college graduate white women poll. Well, it was a poll of white people and what they think of Trump. And college graduate white women are minus 38 for Donald Trump. Didn't really surprise anyone. But this is what's weird. They're also minus 4 for the Democrat Party. And then I dug a little deeper into the poll yesterday after the show. And so what is it that they love? Because they're minus 4 for the Democrat Party, which surprised me. They're plus 31 on DEI initiatives. Plus 31. What was the number one favorite thing of white college women in this poll? Of all, they asked 25 things. I would have thought abortion, that this was the most important thing or whatever. That was not it. You're going to be careful now. Don't wreck your car. Their number one most popular thing, plus 53 points. This is favorability rating. Plus 53 with college graduate white women. Volodymyr Zelensky. What? College graduate white women, Zelensky plus 53, Trump minus 38. I'd like some psychologist to be on this broadcast and explain that to me. Someone who could do absolutely nothing to change their existence in the United States of America versus someone who can. I'm stunned by this. I mentioned J.D. Vance, and the interview will be coming up later today on KCMO Talk Radio. He gave a speech earlier this week about American exceptionalism. It was to tech and business leaders, and it was mostly off the cuff, and it was terrific. And J.D. Vance is a really smart guy, and when he speaks, it's very high level. He says all kinds of things that are, he was talking about cheap labor and how it made America lazy and lacking in innovation and productivity, and it was all really brilliant. He's really, really a smart guy. And then as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, okay, this is great, but this doesn't translate into votes. His real strength is things that are very intelligent. And I'm following along because I'm kind of I'm geeky like that. I'm into it. Most voters don't really care about things like that. They care about simplifying things. And as we think about, I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse here, but a lot of people are like, is J.D. Vance the next president? Well, he very well may be. One of the things he's going to have to do, unless Trump just anoints him the candidate, which Trump could do, I don't think Trump will. I think Trump likes competition. I think he's going to want to see a primary and see how that goes and maybe wait. But maybe he's a kingmaker and says J.D.'s the guy, and that's that. One of the things J.D. Vance is going to have to do is go back to his days in Ohio and West Virginia, growing up in Appalachia, and just be that regular guy the way he speaks. I think he can do it. I think that's where he's from. I think that's who he is. But, man, he is a shining superstar when he's talking to tech and business leaders about globalism, why globalism will never work, and why American exceptionalism will always top globalism. It was a fascinating, brilliant speech. I can't wait to hear him today on with Vince Colonnese. Looking forward to that. All right, let's go to the phones. We got Leonard and Shawnee today on KCMO Talk Radio. Good morning, Leonard. How are you?
Doing good, Keith. You know what? I think a lot of people that are in the Republican Party right now are going to have a bite at the apple. J.D. Vance, maybe even Don Jr. later, because I think that what's happening right now and with Biden, just like Carter, people are going to say never again. In our first century, the first full century, we had one party that ran it for 28 years, a second for 20 years, and I just think that we're in that mode right now, and I think a lot of people are going to get a bite at the apple.
I think you're probably right. I think it's all going to be up to Trump next time around for president, at least in the Republican Party. He's definitely the kingmaker. This is his party now, and it's a completely changed Republican Party. Thank you, Leonard, for the call, as always, man. I really appreciate your input. We have lamented for years that we didn't like the Republican Party very much. That mostly came from people that were just conservative. I don't think many people, being honest, would say that conservatives are radical, far right, whatever. Like we look at the crazoids on the left. I can see people inside our party, inside our big tent, that I think are a little wild and out there. I think most of us can spot those people. That's not really what a conservative is, or a constitutionalist, or whatever else we want to call ourselves. There's a lot of different ways we can categorize. We just want freedom and liberty, and we want to be left alone. We want smaller government. These are just tenets of the things that we absolutely cherish and love and want our country to be. But as we go forward, I just feel like people are seeing this now more than at any time in our lifetime. There is more media out there, which means there's more so-called conservative media, which I think a lot of it is just fact-finding for people. I think so much of what people think right-wing media is they're stumping for the right. No, what they're doing is they're putting the truth out there for people to see, because so much has been kept from them for so long, and I love that. We're up for break. If you'd like to join us, give me a call, 913-408-7957. You're listening to Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. I'd like to thank all the members of the Kansas City media for listening to yesterday's show or watching it after the fact. Well, I just had some things I had to get off my chest yesterday about things that happen in media. I like talking about media. I hope you find it useful, and I want everybody in this audience to be selective and understand the tricks and the games that are played upon you by people on the left, what they will do. I've been around them for 40 years. I know every trick that they have. And, you know, the worst one isn't when they lie to you or tell you that something that's wrong and make a correction. That's not the worst is when they simply don't report something. They just blackball it. The Hunter Biden laptop was the best example of that. They just ignored it. It didn't happen. It was in a vacuum. It didn't happen. That's the worst thing you can do, is actually take the news away from the people you're not doing your job. And I think there's a radio show in Kansas City that does that on a daily basis. They just ignore what's real and try to act like we're in some kind of a fantasy land. So I was talking about the Dana and Park show over on KMBZ. And I got a lot of emails after doing that. And one in particular struck me as quite profound from Joe. He says, Kevin, please keep it up on them. It used to be tolerable at best, but she's the poster child for elite liberals everywhere, and she won't admit it. Well, I agree with you, Joe. And then he left me with a quote that I'd never heard before, and it struck me as profound. This is from U.S. Navy Admiral Hyman Rickover. Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. Now, in defense of myself, I'm talking about an idea here of what media and radio are supposed to be. I like Dana Wright. Everything that I've ever done around her, she's been very kind to me. She loves to play golf. I love to play golf. We probably have a lot in common. It's the medium I'm talking about. It's what this is supposed to be. The honesty, the truth. Being who you really are and not something some programmer or corporation tells you to be. Be yourself. If you're doing this for a living, be yourself. Don't be fake. Don't be disingenuous. So I feel like I'm talking about an idea. When she's on there and astronauts are coming down to splash in the ocean because of Elon Musk, and she's calling him an idiot, making it sound like he's the dumbest, worst person on earth, that's a small mind discussing a person. There was no discussion of an idea or even ideology. There was no discussion about how great the rockets were or how they aren't, or why we have an international space station, or maybe we shouldn't be doing that. None of that. It was all just, I don't like that guy. He's an idiot. He's stupid. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. I like that. And I appreciate Joe for sending that to me. That was, I found that to be profound. Let's go to the phones. Jeff's in Arizona listening. Jeff, when you coming home from Arizona? My goodness.
I'm coming home in 2 weeks, so I'm ready to get back to Shawnee. But, hey, my great show again. Hey, Kelly out here in Arizona, he sold his Tesla. Cheryl Crow sold her Tesla. And Tampon Tim is jumping up and down on the stage talking about how Elon Musk stock's gone down, and he doesn't understand all the pensions that are involved in that and all the 401ks are involved in this. But in the great movie line, in Tropical Thunder, the Democratic Party has gone full retard, and you don't ever go full retard, and there's no coming back from it.
This is no small thing. I don't use that word. We were told you can't use that word. It's back. It's back, and people say it, and I know it's used for comedic purposes more than anything. Nobody means it, I don't think, really in a harmful way. There's probably a bigger picture issue here about free speech. Dave Chappelle was on the forefront of this several years ago. Don't tell me what I can say and can't say about transgender people. I'm a comedian. We live in America. Free speech is okay. We've suddenly found ourselves able to say things that couldn't be said before. And I do think that's progress, even if it's a word that I don't want to use. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And you were quoting a movie. I know you were quoting a movie.
Sure.
But that movie's how old? 15 years old?
Yeah, it can never be made again.
Right. That's my point. That stuff went away. Right. And now you're quoting it, and it wasn't completely cringeworthy. Again, you're quoting a movie, but people are using that term. We're seeing comedians all over the place say it. Is it nice? No. Right. Is it funny on stage when a comedian uses it in the proper context? Probably.
Sure. So, yeah. Like I said, they've totally lost their party. They're grabbing straws. Tim wants to challenge a Republican with a fight. I mean, come on, people.
Right. Good call, buddy. Get your butt back to Shawnee. We need you here this summer.
I'm heading back. Take care.
We'll see you. He says, I got to leave Arizona and come back to Shawnee. Okay. What's in Shawnee? How long has that dude been out there? Does he call all the time? Is he Jeff from Shawnee when he gets back? He's been out there the whole time I've done the show. I started the first week of December.
Yeah, he must be one of those guys that goes down during the winter.
Like a long winter.
Yeah, long winter.
Ooh, no back and forth. He's just out of here.
Today's the first day of spring, technically, I think.
That is right, isn't it? I like that. Okay, we are on to it. How about this? We got about 10 days away. There's going to be changes to Social Security, and I think this might be a little bit of a speed bump for Trump and Elon, and I'll explain why. I like what they're trying to do. They're asking everyone on Social Security to prove your identity. You do this by going online by March 31st at your My Social Security page. And you have to, once again, document and prove your identity to receive your benefits. That sounds right. If you can't do it online, you have to visit a Social Security office. That's not possible for everyone. There are all kinds of people in rural areas that are hours away from a Social Security office. There are all kinds of people that are retired that have no idea how to log on to their My Social Security page online. And in fact, there are places in America where there are old people that can't even get online. So I think they're creating a little bit of a bugaboo. I understand what they're trying to do here. And maybe there's a caveat that there's no, If you're already receiving it, it's fine, and they're just trying to get as many people as they can to confirm who they are. I've not read anything that says, okay, your check's going to stop or anything like that if you don't prove this to us by March 31st. I think of my mom in these situations. I think maybe she does go online. I'll have to ask her if she's got a My Social Security page that she goes to and stays in touch with. I don't know. And I don't know what the ramifications are if you don't do this by the end of March. I appreciate the intent. I love that they want to prove that you're alive. What they're trying to do, and maybe they're going to do this with people that are like over 100. If you haven't responded and you're over 100, they can start to search those people or something and say, okay, these people may not be alive. They've deleted a whole bunch of people from Social Security that are over 110 because we know they're not alive. So they've gotten rid of all those people. They're trying to pare this thing down and clean up the rolls and put in a new system that where somebody dies, it's over. We know that. They're out of the computer. This should be the easiest thing to automate ever. There's a death record for pretty much everyone. You'd have to be like eaten by a shark somewhere in the Gulf of America when nobody knew you were out at sea for people to not know you were dead. You'd just be missing. But for the most part, when Americans die, we should be able to clean this up. And I think they will. I just hope there's not some firestorm coming up in 10 days of people that said, I couldn't get to an office. I don't know how to go online. I think for a lot of older people, getting online and asking them to prove their identity can be a tricky thing. And then what do you do with people in nursing homes that are bedridden? Is the nursing home responsible for doing it? The check is still coming somewhere. If you're 98 years old and you're laying in a bed and you can't really do anything for yourself and you're still going to live 6 more months, you get your checks. Who's going to do that for you? I don't know who's going to do that for you. Tricky thing. All right, but I do like topics like that, and I love the fact that they're working on this. They're getting to a point where we're going to have these roles cleaned up and know exactly what we've got. It's crucial. It's important. Joe Biden continues to have a bad time after being president. This is a person that he committed the sentence of. Willie Peterson in Alabama was a hardened drug convict, a dealer, the whole thing. He commuted his sentence, thought it would be okay for Mr. Peterson to be released, and now just weeks later, he has been arrested on multiple drug charges, and he's going back to the slammer. I mean, it's every day there's like another embarrassment for Joe Biden, truly, from his presidency. And look, I'm sure a lot of presidents have commuted sentences or given pardons to people, and they've gone and they've done something that's not great after they were, back out. You hate to see that happen. You hate it a lot. But in this case, you kind of have to laugh that it's Joe Biden, just because that's who Joe Biden is. All right, here's Karen Brownlee in Olathe. Karen, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Kevin?
I am well. Having a great day.
Good. Well, you were talking about J.D. Vance and being such an incredibly smart guy, but the other quality he has is that he has a moral compass. And I think that's something that we really need today, and people want it whether they admit it or not.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think there's any question about that. He is that guy. Let me ask you this, because I got this from my mom, and I apologize if in any way you were offended by this question, but I think this actually matters. It shouldn't, but I think it does. Do you think he's good looking?
Oh, reasonably good looking, but that's not what counts.
No, I know. I'm just asking. When you look at him, do you think, well, there's a fine looking man?
Yeah, well, he's good looking enough to be successful in the political arena.
Okay.
But if I could also say, who do we have today that's saying this is right and this is wrong?
Yeah.
It's Trump and Elon Musk.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're spot on, and you were probably the wrong person for me to ask the question. But the point is, my mom and my older sister both think he's pretty good looking.
Oh, well, good.
That never hurts. That never hurts.
It never hurts. You're right. So
great call, Karen. Thank you. Great to hear from you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. That's awesome. Here is Dan in Overland Park on Uncanceled. Good morning, Dan.
Morning, Kevin. Hey, you were talking about Vance is going to be on Vince at 12:35.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be huge. I read some transcripts from that speech he had with those business leaders. What I think is going on, Vance is laying down the framework for the terrorists and for a lot of things going on in the Trump administration. what I think is going on, Trump is kind of the bluster, and Vance is the precision tool that lays out what's really going on. I think this could be huge today.
It's going to be a great interview. They already released a little teaser on it, about a 40-second clip. Pete Mundo played it last hour, where Vince Coglianese asked J.D. Vance what he does different every day than Kamala Harris, and he said, well, I don't have 4 glasses of vodka before every meeting. I just thought it was great. I thought it was great. So it's going to be a terrific interview. You're going to want to hear it.
Love it. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, man. Really appreciate you calling in today on Uncanceled. This is our friend Jim in Blue Springs. Hi, Jim. What's up?
Just working here. Hey, the senior citizens you're talking about, they have nursing homes have to be qualified through the federal government to handle Medicaid patients, Medicare, and so they actually have a history if they're alive or not. Now, that doesn't mean that the nursing home ain't lying and just, false reporting, but the individuals themselves are still, they're already reported because it's an active care situation, which uses federal government dollars.
Right. I think the point of this Social Security exercise is we want you receiving benefits to prove that you're still alive and verify your identity. And there's no way everybody's going to be able to do that by March 31st. There's no chance. So maybe it's just trying to get as many people as they can to do it, but I don't think there can be any real ramifications if you don't. I just don't see how there could be.
No, I think the nursing homes themselves will do the reporting because they're already on their system as far as receiving payments.
Yeah.
Part of it's paid for by the government, part of it's paid for by individuals, all that,
Yeah, no doubt.
So
no doubt.
That part we take care of.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah. Good
right.
call, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, the nursing homes do a great job. During COVID, I had a 1-year non-compete of any media. I couldn't even do a podcast. And COVID hit, and I got so bored, I thought, well, what are we going to do here? I got to find something to do. And I went to work for a medical lab in Lenexa called Mod Pathology, and most of the drivers that drove the cars around to the different medical facilities were much older than me. And they immediately got terrified of going and picking up COVID tests in hospitals, doctors' offices, wherever. Rightfully so. Many of them said, nope, we're going home and shutting it down. I was like, I don't care. They made me wear gloves and a mask. I said, I don't really feel like I need to, but if that's the rules of the company, I guess I will. Every time we'd go in and pick up these tests, I'd have gloves and a mask on. I did that for probably 8 or 9 months and enjoyed it because it felt like, we were helping people or doing whatever and saw some crazy things. But I will tell you this, people who work in assisted living facilities, they are sent by God. That's a whole different level of commitment to your fellow human beings. Because in almost every case, these are people you don't know. It is a job. A lot of people, first of all, don't like their jobs. If you're doing that, you do it because you have a giant heart and you want to help others. And during COVID, it was terrifying for so many of those people. And we know the trouble that we're in nursing homes. And I'd go into those places, and I don't know how those people go there and do that every day. I'm just being honest with you, man. Sometimes I think I'm an all right guy, and then I remember people like that, or people that work with hospice. I mean, the true heroes in our community that help the most vulnerable, sick kids, children at risk, the elderly who can't take care of themselves. I mean, that's really a calling and a blessing. I'd like to think I could do it. I don't know, man. I'm telling you, these people are really, really special. And we talk about first responders a lot, military, all of those folks that serve for us. Let's not forget the ones that are out there serving for people that many times are living out the last, sometimes 2 months, but sometimes the last 5 years of their life in a facility where they're stuck in a little room and in a bed every day and need their clothes changed and all this stuff. These people that do that work, man, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that we have people that do that and do that for honor. That's really cool stuff. I really, really, really respect that. All right, one more, and that is Sue in Hallsville. Good morning, Sue. How are you?
Good. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
What I'm getting from the Social Security information is that it's affecting people who are filing currently, who are going to file new claims for Social Security. I don't believe anyone has to go in and prove their identity. Months ago, they did tell you if you wanted to be able to get into your Social Security account that you had to go in and verify your ID so you could continue to look at it online.
Right.
Months ago, we received information on that. But I don't believe that everybody on Social Security has to get on this website and verify themselves. I think it's for new claims only.
Okay, that is good news. That's great.
I did it yesterday.
Okay.
And for my husband, it took all of maybe 20 minutes.
Right. What's your bird's name?
Oh, that's Coconut. He's
Coconut.
25.
25? What kind of bird is Coconut?
He's a cockatiel.
Does he talk?
No. Just tweets and looks at himself in the mirror.
Oh, he loves Twitter, huh?
Yes.
Sue, thanks for the call.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you very much. Love that. Great stuff. Mark is with us next. We'll talk a little hoops. And, one of my favorite things ever came out yesterday. We'll talk about it next on KCMO Talk Radio. I got a feeling this is going to be a great, great day today. Mark, I'm a complete and total nerd when it comes to the Masters Golf Tournament. It's only a couple of weeks away. Mm-hmm. I get so excited for the Masters when they give out the Champions Dinner menu. I love it. So the Champions Dinner is Tuesday night before the Masters. Okay. And whoever won last year gets to set the menu.
That's right.
Scotty Scheffler, greatest menu of all time. I've reverted to being a 13-year-old teenager, a junior high kid. Scotty Scheffler is going to have cheeseburger sliders, firecracker shrimp, Papa Chef's meatballs, and ravioli bites for appetizers. Texas-style chili before your meal, cowboy ribeyes for dinner, and a chocolate chip skillet cookie for dessert.
Let's go. I'm in.
He's every 13-year-old boy at Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah. Probably why I'm in.
I love it. That's so good. All right, what do we got tonight? Kansas is up first at 6:10 against Arkansas, two of the winningest coaches in basketball history. Who do we like in this one?
I like Kansas. I think Kansas will win it.
Isn't it solely about Hunter Dickinson? He's got to go 22-12 tonight, doesn't he?
Hunter Dickinson has to have a good game. Zeke Mayo can't go 0-6 from 3.
Right.
Zeke's going to be a big one. Don't turn the ball over. They have had some turnover issues. I think if they can keep that clean, they'll win the game.
And maybe DeJuan Harris has another gear here in the postseason. He's been at it long enough. Missouri plays Drake in a game where they're going to try to play slow down. I believe Caleb Grill is the key to this game. He's a 41% three-point shooter. He's from Wichita. He's going back home. He doesn't always start or whatever, but if he goes like 5 of 11 tonight, I think Missouri wins. They're going to have a lot of half-court possessions they're not used to having. I think this is going to be a slower game than normal, and Caleb Grill could be the key. I think they get the win, don't you?
I think Mizzou wins it. I think that Drake will cover it, though.
Drake covers. What is the number, 5.5?
6.5.
6.5. Take Drake for the close game. I do like that. Kansas is a 5.5-point favorite?
4.5 now.
I think I'd have to take Arkansas and Drake if I was going to bet the lines.
Yeah.
Just that it could be close games or should be close games. Thanks for listening. Don't forget, The Vince Show is up next, and he has got J.D. Vance coming up. Stick around on KCMO Talk Radio.